We as humans are learning things all the time. Even if we have already graduated from school, we pick up new skills to excel in our careers, pursue new hobbies like sports or music, or learn how to become better parents. But not all ways of learning are created equal. Some are more effective than others, and some can even hinder our progress.
It's not that their kids are any smarter than ours, it's that they are being smarter about how to educate their children.
Instead of blindly following study hacks, let's take a look at the actual science behind effective learning and how we could make knowledge be more durable, meaning it sticks, as well as flexible, meaning it could be applied broadly. The big paradox when it comes to learning is that performance during studying or practice is not necessarily correlated with knowledge or experience gained. This means that breezing through practice might trick us into thinking that we are well prepared, but in reality, it might have resulted in poor learning. Instead, we want to introduce certain challenges to the learning process that will slow us down and make us feel like we're making less progress. But the trade-off is that they can drastically improve the durability and flexibility of what we are learning so that we can perform well when it actually matters. These challenges are appropriately named desirable difficulties, and there are 4 of them that are important in learning deeply. The first is biasing practice towards retrieving information from memory rather than reviewing the concepts again. It turns out that struggling to generate an answer on our own, even if it turns out to be wrong, can significantly enhance how much we can remember and understand. This is why teaching others the concept we learned is such a powerful method of learning, because during this process, we are continually tasked with recalling the information, consolidating it, and then presenting it in a coherent manner. In short, we want to focus on active outputs like self-testing, experimentation, and teaching others instead of passive inputs, like rereading a textbook, reviewing a study guide, or rewatching a lecture. The next type of desirable difficulty is spacing out our repeated practice and study sessions. No matter what you are learning, be it a foreign language, skiing, or physics, our retention, or how much we remember, tends to follow an exponential decaying forgetting curve over time. But if we review, or better yet, actively retrieve the material at increasingly spaced intervals, then our forgetting curve tends to level off, increasing our long-term retention. So you might ask, what about cramming then? Well, cramming might be fine to get you through that exam that you're taking in 3 hours, but if you've done this before, like I have many times, you will no doubt realize how fast you lose this information from your memory right after the test. One tool that can help introduce both spacing and retrieval to your learning is spaced repetition programs like Anki or Mochi. They let you quiz yourself on whatever topic you want to learn, gradually spacing out questions you get correct and repeating questions that you miss. The third type of desirable difficulty is making connections. If we visit any classroom in the world, we usually see students engaging in 2 types of learning and practice. The more common type is called using procedures. This is essentially just practice at something that was just learned. For example, applying the Pythagorean theorem to exercises on a math worksheet. The second type is called making connections. These are questions that allow students to connect what they are learning to a broader concept, such as understanding how or why the formula works, or using it in different ways to solve a real-life problem. While procedural practice is important, it becomes an issue when it is the only form of learning, which is unfortunately the case in many classrooms in the United States. What we need to do is introduce both types of learning in order to understand and connect the underlying concepts we are practicing, instead of treating everything as just a set of procedures to memorize and follow. The final type of desirable difficulty is to interleave different concepts or types of challenges when practicing or studying. Here are some common examples of textbook problems given out as homework to middle school students when learning how to calculate the volume of various solids. They are usually organized in a blocked format, where we practice the same concept over and over again until we feel like we mastered it, before moving on to the next concept. While blocked practice generally leads to excellent immediate performance, for our learned knowledge to be flexible, we need to interleave practice of different concepts together. For these types of problems, it means mixing cylinder, cones, and sphere problems together on one page, so that we learn not only how to perform each procedure, but also which procedure is appropriate for each kind of problem. In one study, students were assigned into two groups, mixers and blockers, to learn how to calculate volume of 4 different types of solids. The results showed that while the blockers performed better during practice, they scored significantly worse than mixers when tested a few weeks later, at 20% compared to 63%. Blocked practice is a crutch. We are given a formulaic procedure and are instructed to blindly apply it to each of the problems that we face. But once we graduate from school, the real world throws at us complex challenges that require us to match the right strategy, or even multiple strategies, to problems, instead of relying on memorized procedures. Now, these techniques don't just apply to mental activities. Physical activities can benefit from making connections and interleaving as well. When famous basketball player Shaquille O'Neal was playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, he shot free throws so poorly that opposing teams would foul him intentionally to send them to the free throw line. Robert Bjork, the researcher who coined the term desirable difficulties himself, mentioned that Shaq should mix practicing shooting 1 foot behind and in front of the free throw line in order to learn the motor modulation needed. Similarly, in baseball, a scientific study showed that it was better to practice batting an interleaved mixture of fastballs, curveballs, and changeups instead of trying to master the different type of pitches one after another. Desirable difficulties like testing and spacing make knowledge durable. Desirable difficulties like making connections and interleaving make knowledge flexible for problems that you perhaps haven't even seen before. They can slow down learning and make performance suffer in the short term, but it's worth it for long-term learning. If you feel like you are a slow learner, you can rest assured knowing that as long as you are using the correct techniques, slow and steady is not only expected, but also optimal for best retention and flexibility. Don't fall for the cult of the head start. Learning deeply means learning slowly and deliberately.